Assalamu alaikum. Today's lecture I deliver on the research methodology, problem definition, the foundation of business research. First, I discuss research problem. What is research problem? Research problem is a question that a researcher wants to answer or a problem that a researcher wants to solve. That means research problem is a question that a researcher wants to answer or a problem that a researcher wants to solve. The first and foremost step in research process is to select research problem and it defined properly. If a researcher is better able to define a research problem, he is about to complete 50% task of the research. That's why the researcher should define the research problem properly. Actually, a research problem is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature. In theory or in practice, that points to the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. For example, a medical doctor examines all the symptoms of a patient before prescribing any medicine to the patient. Similarly, to conduct a research, the researcher should examine all the symptoms of the problem that he has selected for the study. Importance of starting with a good problem definition. First importance is it reveals the methodology of the study. It helps research to control the bias of the research. It specifies the variables. It sets the direction of the study. It helps to know the problem complexity. More importance of research problem is it helps to know the symptom ambiguity and it establishes the proper frame of reference and it makes the research work feasible. That means it reveals the methodology of the study, which methodology you can use. It helps the research to control the bias of the research and it specifies the variables. Characteristics of a good research problem. Identification of research problem is the most important steps in research problem. And generally, before going to the research area, broad area is selected, then narrowed down the real needs. As research process is very critical, a simple mistake can ruin or misinterpret the research. So following qualities is essentially required for the identifying the research problem. First characteristics is the problem can be stated clearly and consciously. The problem can be stated clearly and consciously. The research statement should be concise because big or elaborated problem statement can be difficult to understand. The problem generates research question. It is grounded in the theory. It relates to one or more academic fields of study. It relates to one or more academic fields of study, and it has a base in the research literature. It has potential significance, and it is doable within the time framework budget. The feasibility is the most important requirement for any research project. Availability of equipment, money, and ethical issue must be checked. Sufficient data are available or can be obtained. The researcher methodological strength can be applied to the problem. The problem is new, it is not already answered sufficiently. And other characteristics of good research problem is original or unique research. It is fundamentally considered that every research problem should be new and unique. It is responsibility to research to innovate knowledge or selecting a research problem. Measurable. The research problem must be measurable in terms of degree or frequency or any team that can be understandable by research or other parties. Interesting. A research problem must be good and interesting in accordance with researcher's field of interest. A research problem must be as per motivation of the researcher. The problem definition process steps. 6 steps are there. First step is understanding the business situation and identifying key symptoms. Second, identifying key problem from symptoms. Third, writing managerial decision statement and corresponding research objectives. Determining the unit of analysis. Fifth, determining the relevant variables. And sixth, writing research questions. Understand the now I discuss about these steps. Understanding the business situation and identifying key symptoms. Understanding the business situation is the main step in problem definition process. Researchers sometimes apply qualitative research with the objectivity of better problem definition. The situation analysis begins with the interview between the researcher and the management. Interview process. The researcher must enter a dialogue with the key decision makers in an effort to fully understand the situation that has motivated a research effort. This process is critical and the researcher should be granted access to all individuals who have specific knowledge or insight into situation. The interview process includes developing many alternative problem statements, thinking about potential solutions to the problem, and making list using techniques to generate ideas, using plausible ideas or analogies in creative thinking. Identifying, second step, identifying key problem from symptoms. After the observation of symptoms, the key problems are identified. It is very useful in translating the decision situation into a working problem, definitely focusing on symptoms. Third step is writing managerial decision statement and research objectives. After the identification of the key problems from symptoms, managerial decision statement and research objectives are analyzed and written. Decision statements must be translated into research objectives. At this point, the researcher is starting to visualize what will need to be measured and what type of study will be needed. Managerial decision statement and research objectives are analyzed and written. Decision statements must be translated into research objectives. Fourth step is determining the unit of analysis. The unit of analysis for a study indicates what or who should provide the data and what level of aggregation. Researcher, I repeat again, the unit of analysis for a study indicates what or who should provide the data and what level of aggregation. Researchers specify whether an investigation will collect data about individuals such as customers, employees, and owners, and in case of households, families, extended families, and so forth. In case of organizations, business and business units, in case of departments, sales, finance, and so forth. Geographical areas or objects, products, advertisement, and so forth. In studies of home buying, for example, the husband and or wife typically is the unit of analysis rather than the individual, because many purchase decisions are made jointly by husband and wife. Determining relevant variables. After fifth step, determining the relevant variables. After the determination of the unit of analysis, relevant variables are determined. A continuous variable is one that can take on a range of values that correspond to some quantitative amount. Consumer attitude toward different airlines is a variable that would generally be captured by numbers, with higher numbers indication a more positive attitude than lower numbers. Each attribute of airline services such as safety, seat comfort, and baggage handling can be numerically scored in this way. And sales volume, profits, and margin are common business metrics that represent continuous variables. A categorical variable is one that indicates membership in some group. The term classificatory variable is sometimes also used and is generally interchangeable with categorical variable. Categorical variables sometimes represent quantities that take on only a small number of values, 1, 2, or 3. However, categorical variables more often simply identify membership. The following table includes some common business research hypotheses and a description of the key variables involved in each. In the first case, a regional grocery chain is considering offering a delivery service that would allow consumers to purchase groceries via the store website. They have conducted a trial of this in one market and have conducted a survey in that area. In the second case, a Korean automobile company is considering offering one of its models for sale in Europe. The company has also conducted a survey in two key European auto markets. Sixth step: writing research objectives and questions. Both managers and researchers expect problem definition efforts to result in statements of research questions and research objectives. Both managers and researchers expect problem definition efforts to result in statements of research questions and research objectives. At the end of the problem definition stage, the researcher should prepare a written statement that clarifies any ambiguity about what the research hopes to accomplish. This completes the translation process. Now I discuss about considering factors in selecting research problem. First factor is a subject that is overdone should not be selected by the researcher because it is very difficult to give new insight into it. A subject that is overdone should not be selected by the researcher because it is very difficult to give new insight into it. And second factor is a subject that is controversial should not be selected by the researcher. Too narrow or too vague problems should be avoided by the researchers. Too narrow or too vague problems should be avoided by the researchers. The researcher should select that subject with which he is familiar and well known. The researcher should select that subject which is familiar and well known. The researcher should select the subject that is feasible to solve. The researcher should also consider whether sufficient data are available or not. The researcher should contact with experts or university professors who are engaged in research. A researcher can discuss the problem that he has selected with others who are well known about the problem. And the researcher should read articles, journals, on the selected problems. The researcher can take help from the research guide. A preliminary study should be done by the researcher before selecting the problem, especially if the subject matter is new one. In a word, considering factors of selection in the research problem can help the research to conduct the research effectively and efficiently. These are the factors in selecting research problem. In next class, we discuss about research proposal, what is research proposal, and good characteristics of good research proposal, and components of research proposal. Difference between concept and variable. If you have any problem, you can contact with me. Allah Hafiz.